Welcome back to Light Talk, where everyone can be themselves and tell their own unique paranormal and supernatural experiences with a safe and supportive community. If you have a story you would like to share, email me at lighttalk423 at gmail.com. And while you're at it, click on the like, share, and subscribe buttons down below. Well, I'm going to welcome this amazing guest. She has so much to tell us today, and I'm so excited to get started. So, we're going to go ahead and start up. So, I'm handing the mic over to you. So, go ahead and introduce yourself, and we'll get started.
Okay, thank you so much for inviting me. My name is Sophia Demas. A little bit about myself. I worked as an architect for 10 years, and then I had a dress designing business for about the same time. Then I went back to school and got my degree in counseling psychology. So I was in private practice, and then I just retired from being an in-house counselor at a residence for ex-trafficked women. So there lots of trauma there, and then I I started to experience miracles when I was 19 years old, and I would tell people about my miracles, and they would say, "Oh, this only happens to you," which I found a little annoying because I'm not special, not a guru or a saint. And and then it was about, I don't know, 18 years ago, I was told by a medium, and that story's in my first book, that I was going to write a book. And I said, that's not in the cards. That's not going to happen. First of all, I have nothing to say, but I'm a people person, so there's no way I'm going to sequester myself and write a book. And she let me go on and argue. And then she says, word for word, Spirit says, when she's ready, there are many spirits here to help her and many hands on earth. And that's how it came down. So in 2011, I was reconnecting with a childhood friend, and I told her my latest miracle. And she says, "Oh, these things only happen to you." And something clicked. It was like, wait a second. I mean, everybody has a miracle story or a coincidence or something, but the sheer number of miracles, it was pretty remarkable. So what I did is I sat down and I listed all the miracles I could think of. And what came out for me was what preceded every miracle was a coincidence. And and so and then I realized that, wow, I took action on the coincidence. And when I realized that, if I hadn't taken action, I would not have received the miracle. And by miracle, I mean getting exactly what you need at just the right time. So that is when I decided to write my book, because I wanted to share with people that the key, that key of taking action on the coincidence. So basically, my philosophy is that there is a greater intelligence than us. Okay, so call it God, divine intelligence, divine consciousness, and this entity wants us to be happy and find our true purpose, and knows what's best for us better than we do. Okay, so what happens is that we communicate with this divine intelligence. So this entity communicates with us via dreams or putting a stranger in front of us that tells us exactly what we need to hear, or puts these coincidences in our path. And when we take action, we co-create the miracle with divine intelligence. So, and then we communicate with divine intelligence via prayer and gratitude. So the first, my first book, which is The Divine Language of Coincidence, that Divine Language of Coincidence is a memoir. So pretty much all the miracles are chronological, except for two chapters. One, I call it Please, which is about prayer, and the other one is Thank You, about gratitude. And the events in those chapters are more thematic. So, and it doesn't have to be a formal prayer. You just ask. I go around asking all day long. So, and then saying thank you all day long. I mean, and I am sublimely happy, and I have found my true purpose.
That is awesome. And that's where it all needs to be. And that's where everybody will end up. I mean, I'm working on it. You're working on it. Everybody's going to get there.
Yes.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. So can you talk about a couple of your miracles that you have gone through? Can you give us a peek of your book?
Okay. All right. I tell about these two miracles that yielded me exactly what I needed for my wedding. Okay. So, okay. And then maybe you would like to tell me which one you think is stranger. Okay.
Okay.
So, again, is recognizing that it's a coincidence. And I do not give one miracle, consider one miracle bigger or lesser than the other. To me, as long as the miracle, yields what you need, they're all the same. So, okay, so Frank and I decided to get married on 4th of July, and the wedding date was 4th of October. So we only had 3 months. And, all the venues were taken, and musicians and photographers. And I thought, oh, I don't care. I mean, I have a friend who's a wedding planner. She could make a garage look beautiful, So, but we did, go looking at venues. And then the Mutter Museum, the ballroom at the Mutter Museum called to tell us that there was a cancellation on the 4th of October, but it was pretty expensive. But we didn't know what to do. I mean, time was, going fast, So, okay, so I call my friend Anne, and a man answers who is not her husband. So I said, is Anne there? And this guy says, Sophia, is that you? What do you mean? It's Jerry. You called me. Look, I'm really late for a meeting. I just got out of the shower. Can I call you later? And I'm like, what? I recognized his voice because he has an accent. But how this guy recognized me, and this was somebody that I knew socially. Okay, so I said, well, before you go, what's your telephone number? And he tells me, and I had misdialed the last digit. I said, Jerry, promise me you're going to call me back. It's very important. This is amazing. So he calls me back. And as a result of this wrong number, he happened to own the Barclay Hotel here in Philadelphia at the time, which is it was this beautiful grand old hotel that is now converted into condominiums. So, I tell him that we're getting married, and I tell him about the Mutter Museum ballroom. He goes, "Oh, forget it." He goes, "You can have the ballroom at the Barclay, free." And he threw in the presidential suite for 2 nights. But
Right.
he said for repayment, he and his girlfriend had to come to the wedding. So it was
Why?
absolutely perfect. Okay, so that's one. Second one. So I get a call from this woman who um, identifies herself and says, I found your Oregon driver's license in Rittenhouse Square. And I said, "Oh, okay." And she says, "Well, how can I give it to you?" So she happened to just live 2 blocks away.
Oh, wow.
And I said, "Just put it in an envelope through my mail slot." Okay, end of story. But it's not the end of the story. So she had this lovely note, with that she and her boyfriend loved Oregon so much they went every year. And so 2 months before the wedding, um, so I had in my head, uh, just accepted the fact that I would just have the church organist, play.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, so same woman calls me up and says, um, "You're going to find this a little strange, but I just found your ATM card." And I said, "Where?" Because, and so she told me the ATM machine that she found it, because I was used to going to this ATM that spit it out immediately. So this one keeps it, okay?
Oh,
And then at the end, it says, "Would you like another transaction?" But in my head, I had already had the card. So I go away. Next person can clean out my bank account. But it's her. It's her. So I'm like, I cannot believe this. So she said, "Would you like me to put it through your mail slot?" I said, "No, no, we have to meet. You have to come to my studio and we have to meet." So here's this beautiful blonde young woman, and we chatted, and about, this coincidences, and so I told her I was getting married, and that I guess I was going to. Um, oh, I told her. Oh, I find out she's a concert violinist. Okay, and I said, "Okay, look," I said, "God, my favorite piece of music is Concierto de Aranjuez, and it's classical guitar." And I said, "Have you heard of it?" She goes, "Oh, I've played it." And then she says, "Why don't I play that at your wedding? I'll get my friend Alan, who plays the classical guitar, to accompany me. I'll do it for a wedding present, but you can give him some money." So I walked down the aisle to my favorite piece of music, exquisitely played. So
And
which one do
chills
you,
just went down me.
so which one do you think which one would you vote as stranger?
I would probably say the second one, just because it was two completely separate actions that moved into a single motion.
Yeah, but I mean, the idea of dialing a number, misdialing the number, getting somebody that you know on the phone, and then you get this gorgeous venue for I mean, they're both for me, but it's a 50-50. People, it's about a 50-50 choice. So
They're
that's
both good.
they're good. Okay, so the point here, okay, is with Jerry. when he said, I'll call you when I get back, it would have been so easy for me to say, you don't have to. It was a misdialed number. I mean, it's a wild coincidence, but there's nothing I really have to tell you. Okay, so then the next one, when she said, how should I give you the ATM card? Oh, this is so wild. Just put it in the slot. Okay, so it was this recognition that this was bigger than me. And then by taking action and making Jerry promise and making her come over, that's how I got the miracle.
It took both of them.
Yeah, within a couple of months of each other, just in time for the wedding.
Yeah, that is just, that's amazing. That's amazing. I mean,
Okay, now I will. Uh, now this I write. Okay, all of this is in the book. Okay, and but I also sort of threading through the book is my relationship with my husband. Okay, so um, soon, about 6 months into our relationship, I discovered that my husband has deep-seated anger issues. Okay, so I would like innocently make a remark or a gesture, and somehow he would take it as I was belittling him. This is all childhood issues. And he would go into this grand rage, just rage. And it was like this wonderful, compassionate, mild mannered man would go into these absolute rages. And the reason why I stayed is because I saw how important this relationship was to him. And later he went and found this great therapist. And then another time when I had, um, said that I was going to leave, he went out and found this group, a men's group called Menergy, and it was a bunch of ragers, and on this in this men's group, and he became the poster boy. But these things continued. He was able to sometimes catch it and apologize immediately, but it continued. So finally, I just said bye bye because I could. And I left and I moved in with my friend who was actually going through a divorce. And so I never wanted, when I made that decision, I never wanted to see him again because
yeah.
there was so three remarkable coincidences happened. And I'm going to tell you the first one had to do with the Course in Miracles. Okay. Do you know about that book, A Course in Miracles?
No.
Oh, well, you'll find out about it in my first book.
Okay.
So, because I mean, it really, it's something that has guided me and has been very transformational for me. Okay. So
Okay.
I would literally open the book and had to read whatever it said. It's based on a Christ mind. And I resisted for a year and 8 months. I resisted reading this book, and it kept slapping me in the face. And one of the reasons was, well, first of all, it looked very much like the Bible, like thin little pages with numbered paragraphs.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
and then it was also there's no author. Okay, it was channeled through this woman. And however, I thought it was so cool that this woman was on the faculty at Columbia University psychiatric department, and was an atheist and was Jewish. And here she took her 7 years to channel this book. And I just couldn't digest that part. So anyway, so I was forced to read that book. So that's a whole other story. So the first thing that had to do with the book is I opened it up to a chapter I did not want to read, but I had to read it because that's the rule. You have to read what's presented to you. And that allowed me to agree if he was to call me, that I was told that I had to agree to connect with my brother if the brother is connecting with you. So anyway, so he called the next day, and I had him come over, and I was angry. I was
Yeah.
angry. And so I said to him, I put him on the other side of the dining room table. And I said to him, I want you to know that the only reason that you are sitting across from me is because of a miracle. And he says to me, well, I have a miracle for you too, as he's taking off his wedding band. And he tells me that he was fixing the pump to our water fountain in the garden, which is comprised of a basin with this tall, heavy cement column. So the water comes out through the column, hugs the column, and then goes into the basin.
Okay.
And he said the column fell on my hand. Now, I glance at his hands because if that was true, his hand should be hamburger. Okay. So I glanced, and one hand had a bruise with just a very slight little, um, like a little cut.
Hmm.
And he says, as he's showing me the wedding band, he said, the wedding band took the brunt of the weight.
Oh, oh, chills. Oh, chills.
And it was squashed. There's a picture of it in the book, in the first book. There's a
Oh,
picture.
let me see.
I,
I have the book, everyone. I have the book. Hopefully you can see the whole thing. Yay.
So, and I'm
Yes.
so glad I took a picture of that wedding run because he lost it. So now, but I have that picture of it in, it's the, where the, it's a collection of photographs that I have in the book.
That one right there.
Yes.
I can't see if I'm showing you guys. There we go.
Yeah, it's kind of squashed. But I could not, I mean, what are the odds that it would fall precisely at this at
Ring.
this uh, right on his wedding? I mean, and it's so symbolic that it
Yeah.
was the wedding band that saved him. Well, that was exactly what I needed to hear to disarm me. I softened. I just softened. And we started to see each other. And then, yeah, that was kind of like in, I think, October. And then in December, I had planned to go to Maui to be my best friend's maid of honor for the third time. And I wanted to ask him to come with me, but I had a lot of trepidation because he had ruined many romantic getaways. And then finally I thought, okay, I'm going to trust him. I'm just going to trust him. And, and, and I would ask, like,
Right.
I want this healing, I want this healing. Okay, so I'll tell you what happened because it's This is the third one. Okay. So he's coming with me, and we were leaving early in the morning. The cab arrives, and I'm like, oh my God, I need reading material. It's a 14-hour flight. So I have
I
this
need
little,
something.
right?
You need something to do on a flight like
Right.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought, and then, there's the beach, so I have this shelf where I had 7 books that I had started reading but hadn't finished. So I was in such a hurry, I just picked one. And then when I got to the cab, I'm like, oh no, endless energy. I mean, I wanted a novel, because this wasn't really a beach read, So, but here I am on the plane, and I start reading this book. Okay, it's by Dr. Deborah Green, who's a kinesiologist, and she's talking about these energy clearings she does, like through muscle testing, and she goes through these auras, and she talks about trauma being trapped in the muscle, and she does these readings and she does healings, and I'm like, wow, that's what we need. Like, oh my God, and I'm telling Frank about it as I'm reading, and so I'm going back and forth to the back of the book to read the citations, like
Right.
Dr. Larry Dossey says prayer works, and I'm going back and forth, and I'm in the back of the book, and it says Deborah Green, Maui, Hawaii. Not only that, but her address is Kihei Road, and that was where our condo was. Okay, so now what would you do in this case? Are you just going to say, oh my God, that's such a coincidence? What are you going to do?
Would have to go try to look her up and see if you can connect with her.
Take action. So at the
Yeah.
layover, I contacted her and I told her the times we would be free, and she told me that she could do it. And I said, I have to ask my husband because this is not his language.
Yeah.
So I said, Frank, okay, I was telling you about those healings. Look, Maui, Kihei Road. I said, if you agree to have one of her, I said she's has openings, and if you agree, it'll be your Christmas present. And he says, well, it's meant to be. So we have the readings, and I asked him. I said, so what did you think? And he says, well, there's something to this. And I said, well, like what happened? And he wasn't really ready. He was processing.
Right.
But 3 days
Right.
later, he tells me about it. Basically, he told me what I had been telling him for years, but he needed to hear it from the professional. Okay. That was in 2009. He has not had one anger issue since. I am married to my dream guy. So now, again, I took actions on all of the
Huh?
three, what I consider to be remarkable coincidences. And now this miracle, even though I'm not saying it's bigger or lesser than the other ones that I told you about.
Right.
It's more, the miracle is more important because saving my marriage is more important than getting a venue or a musician. So
Right.
so it's just been happening all of my life. And also, and I would like your audience to know that the book was not written to convince anyone. Okay, the book simply is, this is what works for me. And I believe without a trace of doubt that these miracles are available to everyone.
Yep. Yep. And I can vouch for that. With what's going on with me recently is, I'm starting to take steps in things that are coming to me, and things are starting to happen. So yes, you got to take the steps. You got to take the steps. You got to take what's coming at you and run.
Yeah, and so then I and also again back to divine intelligence. Okay, unfortunately, what we were given was free will. Okay, so I had made my decision. I'm a very strong-willed person. I did not want to get married, and I did not want kids because I wanted to focus on my careers. And the last thing I wanted to do was write a book. Okay, so I was very successfully single until the age of 45. Okay, and that's when Frank and I got married. And then in 2011, one of my mentors, Father Stephen, who kind of is the closest thing to Jesus on earth, he not only is an Albanian Orthodox priest, but he's opened up all the covenant houses in the area, which are shelters for homeless teens. So, anyway, I would have coffee with him for 8 years, every 2 months, until he retired and went to Florida. So he was coming over for coffee, and he said, you know the girl that I told you that landed in the shelter from Turkey?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "I'm gonna take her over to get her cap and gown. She's graduating from high school, and I was wondering if I could bring her over." And I said, "Oh, sure." So he brings her over, this beautiful girl, and I'm like, "What are you doing in the shelter?" Like, huh? So I said, "Well, so how did you come to the United States?" And she tells me. And then I said, and then I asked another question, and she answers. And I'm like, "But wait, wait. So Father Stephen says, I have an errand to run. I'll see you back here in an hour and 15 minutes." And off he goes. Well, the stories I heard about abandonment and abuse over and over, re traumatizing this person, was just too much. And he knew exactly what he was doing. Anyway, so long story short, we adopted her. And Mother's Day became my favorite holiday. So now I did get married, I had a kid, and I wrote two books. Okay, so the second book, because um, I didn't know how to organize the book. So Frank was kept saying, "Just write everything. Just write everything down that comes to your head, and then we'll chop later." Well, it ended up being like 700 and some pages. So what I did is I took out all the stories that had to do with death. And that became my second book, Consciousness Beyond Death. And what
With
is so
was this one?
so,
I
and
wanted to make sure we get this in there. If I can
uh,
get it.
yeah, it's true stories of signs, messages, and timing. So, what is absolutely exciting to me is that somehow both books have gotten the attention of scientists. So, the um, I don't even remember how this happened, but this outfit in the UK called the Scientific and Medical Network. You should look it up because it's a group of esteemed scientists that study the paranormal.
Ooh.
So, so they they ended up inviting me to join their group as the only non-academic, non-scientist, and to help them prepare and participate in this in their synchronicity summit. So it was so I was on the panel with these scientists, and So I knew that scientists were studying consciousness, but I had no
Right.
idea that they study coincidence. And so it's a trend thing now. Okay, this is a trend. There I am with my book, you know. So, but there was no interest in the second book. And here is why. Um, are you familiar with Dr. Eben Alexander, who wrote Proof of Heaven?
I'm I feel like I know the proof of heaven, but I'm not
Okay.
recognizing the name. Yeah, but
Well,
yeah.
okay, he ended up reading my first book and he loved it. And when he found out that I was, I had finished the second one, he asked for the manuscript so that he could endorse my book. So I sent him the manuscript and he writes back and says, I'm sorry, I cannot endorse your book because there's not sufficient discussion of consciousness. But that is just BS because the whole foreword, which was written by Dr. Deborah Green, the energy healer, is all about consciousness. But what it was code for, oh, I am a scientist, a neurosurgeon, and I can nearly die, go to heaven, come back, and write about it because it's an NDE, near death experience. And near death experiences have been studied for decades. But I cannot touch your book with a 10-foot pole. Well, as the universe would have it, just before publication, a new field of scientific study has emerged, ADC, after death communication. So now they have license to be interested in my book.
Gonna decide this on their own.
Yeah, so I feel like scientists are catching up, so and all of this is true. This is and the second book, I did an audiobook. I recorded an audiobook of the second book, Consciousness Beyond Death. And when I was recording, I just could not believe that these things really happened to me. But they did. And 7 of the chapters are my experiences. And the 3 of the chapters are close friends' experiences. And you can't even pick which one is more astounding. They're just astounding things. And what it has done, it has completely lifted the fear of death. And so that now I know that when it's my turn, I can continue to communicate with my loved ones that I left behind. So can I give 2 examples that happened after the publication of the book?
Let's go for it.
Okay. So okay, the first one is what I consider to be a spontaneous, unsolicited communication that happened to somebody else. So I went to my ophthalmologist and told her about my second book. And she says, well, I have a story for you. I said, okay. She said, I had to go to this gala with my husband, and I didn't want to go because I was dead tired. It was a full day of surgeries. I just wanted to go home and take a nap. But we had to go to the gala. So afterwards, I had to take the babysitter home because it's my husband's rule never to be alone with a female babysitter. She says, on my way back home, all of a sudden, I heard my grandmother scream, wake up! And she goes, I came to, and I was heading into a brick building. So she was unconscious, and and so her grandmother saved her. So even if it was a dream, the timing was a nanosecond from crashing. So, and she didn't ask for this. Okay, so she was being looked out for. Okay, the other one happened to me. Um, about 6 months ago, I lost one of my oldest, dearest friends um, due to a heart attack. And I mean, this woman was like a global citizen. You know, she was East Indian, but grew up in South Africa. Her brothers were in Australia, so she visited them. She Her undergraduate degree was University of Edinburgh, PhD here in University of Pennsylvania. And I mean, she knew all these ambassadors. She headed this NGO, and I mean, even one time when she came to visit, she took me to Manhattan and to visit her friend Gloria Steinem. So um, I had such the good fortune of having this wonderful FaceTime visit with her 2 days before her heart attack. And when she told me she loved me and I was her sister. And it was just wonderful. So months later, I'm walking down the street thinking of her. And I found myself saying, Pushpa, I said, if there's anyone who's going to give me a sign, it's you. I said, maybe it's too soon, but when you're ready, I said, I want a sign. I swear to you, the very next morning, I received a Facebook friend request from her. And it was just, I mean, that was that, you know? So you can ask, and maybe, and what I was told by the medium, that some spirits are all up for communicating and some are not. So it's not just because you ask, you get it.
Right, right. They have to be willing to. They still have free will.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the story.
And I have one pretty similar to that. Um, my mom just passed away 2 years ago. And last year, about her birthday time, which was February 6th, I asked her, I go, okay, mom, tomorrow's your birthday. I don't want to forget it. So if you are near me sometime today, let me know, give me a sign, because I want to tell you happy birthday. And as you're, some other people would think, nothing's going to happen. So I'm thinking, not expecting nothing, just threw it out there. Within my 10-minute ride home, I get home. I check my phone for any messages because of the podcast and what. So I get in, I check, and here is this huge picture of a birthday cake for her birthday. And I'm like, thank you. Happy birthday, mom.
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
It's beautiful.
And it's it it's really interesting. I was asked, why did I think so many of these miracles? Why have I received such a great number of them? And I meditated on it. And I have given my mother credit for this. Okay. My mother was extremely religious, but it wasn't just religion. It was she drew her spirituality from her religion. Very spiritual person. She had told me about some things that had happened to her, and so she never forced the religion on me. I mean, of course, we went to church, but I mean, she did prayers in the morning, prayers in the evening. She never forced this on me. But from when I was a toddler, okay, so Greek is my first language. And in Greek, you can turn any word into the diminutive. Sort of, it's kind of a cutesy way of talking. So there's the glass and then there's the little glass. Okay. So she would say, I'm a toddler. And she would say, Sophia, if you want anything, just ask little Jesus. Because, little Jesus loves children. And you can ask him for anything you want. And then she said, and then if you get scared, sometimes you get scared in the middle of the night, you get kind of scared of the dark, just ask the little Virgin Mary, to protect you. So I think what happened from this very young age, the way she presented these figures were not like, oh, you have to worship, but they were like my friends. And so I could communicate. So I guess it was just perfectly normal for me to communicate with these unseen beings because it's the only thing I can think of, because many, many people have said, but why so many? And it's like, it's my communication.
It's your family. It's your heavenly family. And who's going to help you but family? I mean, here on earth, well, some families may not be very helpful or what, but they're family and they're always going to be there, whether mentally or whatever, not.
Oh,
They're always with you.
there is no doubt that your mother is with you,
Oh,
period.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I wear her shirts. This is one of her shirts. I say this on my podcast all the time. All the shirts that I wear are shirts that she had. And when we went to go through her store of shirts, she had like, oh my goodness, clothes all over the place. But my sister's like, pick out some of her clothes for the podcast. I'm like, yeah, maybe I will. And so,
Mhm.
yeah, all the shirts I wear are all hers.
Yeah.
So she's always
Well,
with me.
she is. And that's
Oh,
even a more physical,
yeah,
she's more physically with you when you wear the shirt. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'll buy
So,
that.
so she's going to help me through, speaking my right ways or fumbling like I do. I'm human.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, she encourages me and she's always here with me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and see, what you did, you asked for that communication. And and then what happens is that, so these things, the communication is, I mean, I have heard, I think it was 3 or 4 times when I actually heard the guidance, which I have written about, but usually it's through my inner voice, through my intuition. Okay.
Mhm.
And then when you take charge and you see the benefit, then you start trusting yourself more. And then more is presented to you. And then you take action. And then you get the miracle. And then you trust more until you just have complete faith so that you don't worry about anything. And also, I write about obstacles that, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've said, God, why are you doing this to me? And either that day or 2 years down the line, I have thanked God for those obstacles. And one, which is in the book, has to do with my honeymoon, which is unbelievable. I mean, literally, the obstacles saved our lives. So, it's so I thank God. It's like, okay, I guess it's just wasn't meant to be.
Yeah.
Something
It's
else will happen.
it's amazing. It's amazing. And I just keep hearing the word trust, all over the place. So it's just trusting, trust your intuition, trust your guidance, trust what's being said to you, trust what you're seeing, feeling, hearing, trust your clairs, trust everything
You
because
know,
they are
I think
talking.
you're absolutely right because when I decided to ask Frank to come with me to Maui, and I consciously decided to trust him. Okay. Sometimes I think, I wonder if that had something to do with his healing because he felt the trust. So,
I think you froze up on me.
so I don't know if you can hear me.
Oh, there you're back. You're back. You froze up on me there for a bit.
Okay, you're still frozen. Oh, now you're okay.
Okay. We're
So,
back. All right. So you had obstacles at your honeymoon. That's where I last heard you.
yeah, I know that it was a major obstacle that because of the obstacle, our lives were spared. So, so that's the point is that when after a while, then you start trusting the obstacle. I mean, I can't tell you like how many men I was crazy about and it didn't work out. Well, either some died, some went to prison, some lost their minds. Thank God. So,
It is amazing. It is amazing. I am working through some of that right now, and I have been told by multiple people to leave um, my current position. And I was like,
is
there's
this your
something
work?
holding.
Is it
Yeah,
your work or is it a relationship?
no, it's work. It's work. So I was like, no, I just, something's holding me here. And I know there's a lesson here for me. There is a lesson, and I just don't know it. And yes, I'm figuring the lesson out. I'm learning my lesson, and it's
Well,
because of
and
the job.
be open to change, because it, in all these cases where I had made up my mind, no, I don't want to get married. Thank God that my mind was open a crack so that I could, like pay attention.
Right?
And so if something comes up, pay attention.
Yep. And I'm learning that. That was part of my lessons, part of my learnings to open up and chill,
Yeah.
just chill, and things are going to be fine. And things are getting better. And it's because I'm opening up. I'm saying, okay, this is the way it's going to go. I'm just going to ride the wave. And here we
Yes.
are.
Yes.
Oh, well, I want to thank you so much for being with us and amazing stories. And I am about halfway through on the second book. I'm going to try and get this in there, but halfway through, and I am enjoying it. I am just loving everything about it, and I can't wait to start the first book. So, going a little backwards on that, but I am excited, and I hope everybody else can get the chance to read these books. They're fantastic so far. So, yeah, thank you for being with me and telling your stories. I love them. I love them.
Well, thank you for having me, but also I really appreciate this platform you have, which is bringing these things to the public, people's stories, because they, because what it does, you give people through other people's stories, you give them um, um, sort of proof that these things do happen to people. So it's thank you.
Oh, you are welcome. And talking about coincidences, there's been a few times I thought twice about doing this podcast. I thought about, okay, should I, da 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 da. And as soon as I start thinking about that, somebody will say exactly that. It's like, this is great. I love what you're doing. This is wonderful. And all of this. And it's like, yeah, that's what I needed to hear. So yeah, it keeps me in the game. It keeps me rolling. It keeps me doing it. And I keep reminding myself, this is needed for those reasons, to raise the vibration of Earth, to let people know they're not crazy. Things happen. All this stuff happens. And we gotta just stick together, because if you're being told you're crazy, you're not. You're not. I mean, this stuff is here. And
Well,
man,
and Dana, when the scientists start paying attention, you're onto something.
yeah, yeah. And we knew it prior to them. Yeah, it's been fantastic. It's been such a wonderful journey. And I feel like I'm just starting this journey. And I can't wait to see where it ends up, because I'm getting more and more excited all the time. I'm excited about the podcast, excited about card readings, I'm excited about photo readings. And oh my goodness, I was just thinking today, it's like, I even do initials. I mean, you can give me initials and I can read those. And it's like, wow, where did all this come from? And it's like, it's been with me this whole time. I
Yeah,
just had to open up and let it go.
and recognize that it's
Recognize.
there.
Yes, yes. It's so awesome. It's so awesome. It's just been so much fun. Everything has. So, but yes, thank you again. Thank you again. And I hope everybody reads the books. I hope everybody listens and gets something out of this podcast or this show, because even the podcast, and because there's so much information out there, and so much we all have to learn, and so much to grow with. It's just amazing. Amazing. So I'm going to close it up at this point. So if anybody out there has anything you would like to share with everybody here, and speaking with your own journey, your own experiences, please, by all means, let's talk. Email me at lighttalk423@gmail.com. And while you're at it, click on the like, share, and subscribe buttons. And I want to see all of you next time. Thank you so much, everybody. Bye.